After returning home from another boring day at his father's meat and cheese store, Norman entered the barn and stopped inside the double doors. The air smelled of fresh straw and oats, and he wondered if his 12-year-old brother Alvin had brought the horses back in from the field where Norman had put them before leaving for work this morning. Sometimes Alvin got sidetracked and didn't do as he was told, which Norman hoped was not the case today. He tipped his head. Apparently, Alvin had brought them in, because snorting and hoof-clomping echoed down the corridor leading to the horses' stalls. Norman would eventually check on his own horse, Rusty, but right now he wanted to be alone and spend some time with his thoughts. With fingers clenched tightly into his palms, he paced from one end of the rustic wooden building to the other. After all this time since his sister's disappearance, nothing had been resolved. There'd been a thorough investigation with numerous questions asked, but they were no closer to finding out what had happened to Rosa than they had been the first day she'd disappeared. Norman's parents had contacted the sheriff as soon as they knew something wasn't right about her disappearance. Everyone in the family had been questioned several times. All her friends had been investigated too, but no one had offered anything of value. Officials had scoured the area where Rosa had last been seen, looking for any clues as to what might have happened to her. They'd found nothing, and the only thing they had learned was that the last time anyone had seen Rosa was at the young people's gathering she'd gone to with Ephraim. It seemed like they had met a dead end, with no answers in sight. Norman's poor mother had shed so many tears while struggling to provide the authorities with a description of her 20-year-old daughter. With no pictures of Rosa to show, all her parents could offer was her name, age, height, weight, and the fact that her hair and eyes were brown. Norman pondered on the fact that his sister had not joined the Amish church, and even with the pressure she'd received from their father, she'd insisted that she wasn't ready to make a commitment or acknowledgement of her faith in God. Rosa never liked anyone telling her what to do or pushing her to do something she wasn't ready for, and now it's doubtful that we'll ever see her again. Norman swatted both sides of his face. I need to stop thinking about Rosa as though she's dead and never coming back. He crossed his arms over his chest. I need to tell myself daily that she left of her own accord and will return someday with a heartfelt apology and an explanation of where she's been and why she left. Norman stopped pacing and leaned against the outside of his horse's stall for support. He'd had a hard time keeping his mind on work or anything else since Rosa's disappearance. The fact that she'd gone missing and hadn't been found haunted him day and night. Even after this much time had passed, he continued to struggle with anxiety, thinking about his sister and wondering what could have happened to her. What reason would Rosa have had for running away from home? So many questions, yet no answers. He reflected more on Rosa and her outstanding personality traits, both negative and positive. She had always been the outgoing, competitive type, and sometimes became overly emotional about things. Rosa was independent and the closest sibling to Norman's age, which had given them a bond that had strengthened because they were both quite athletic and loved spending time in the great outdoors. With Norman being 4 years older than Rosa, however, even at a young age, he'd felt responsible for her and seen himself as his sister's protector.